How do we envision the city of tomorrow? How can sustainable cities thrive as urbanisation increases? And how does one immersive art piece bring nature, humans and innovation together? All this and more on Urban Renaissance.
From Paris, it's Urban Renaissance. Today, Da쏘si스템 Cities expert Pedro Diaz-Cosero, Zaha Hadid Architects Associate Bogdan Zaha, Da쏘si스템 Cities and Public Services Vice President Jacques Beltran, with Da쏘si스템's Communications Vice President Victoire de Marjorie, and special guest appearance, artist Dr. Ian Kong. Stick around to experience an immersive light show here exclusively. And now, please welcome your host, Amy Burrows.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you for such a warm welcome. Hello, thank you. We've got such an exciting programme for you all joining us. Today, we're welcoming special guests, experts, who will share their insights and knowledge with us on what cities may look like in the future. Welcome to the latest instalment in Da쏘si스템's The Only Progress is Human campaign, an initiative designed to demonstrate how we can tackle real-world challenges with the help of the virtual one. I'm Amy Burrows, and you're watching Urban Renaissance. Sitting across from me now is our first guest, construction and cities expert at Da쏘시스템. Please join me in welcoming Pedro Diaz-Cosero. Hi, Pedro.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, firstly, could you tell us what are we expecting to see in the light show?
Right, so what we're about to see is the amazing work created by the great artist Ian Kong. We work with her to depict the vision of the city of tomorrow that she has. And we projected this on the skin of the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, which is this iconic building in the center of Seoul.
Oh, it's an incredible building, and I'm sure our viewers can't wait to see what's in store. We won't keep them waiting much longer. You are going to stay with us, aren't you? And afterwards, we'll dissect the artist's work a little bit and talk about some of the changes that are already being implemented within cities. Does that sound like a plan?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if you're ready, remember, please do comment, react, and tell us your thoughts throughout the show. We would love to hear from you and have your input. Without further ado, let's kick off the light show.
Cities change with the people that live in them. The time has come to imagine a new urban geography, a cohabiting environment in which humankind, nature, and technology empower each other, opening the way to unlimited potential.
The only progress is human. Da쏘시스템.
Wow, what an incredible show. Did you like it? I think that's a yes. I think that was a yes. I think they liked it. And we're absolutely loving your comments as well, so please do keep them coming. Now, Pedro, first of all, what did you think about the artist's work? What was your impression?
I think it's very meaningful. Sometimes art can be abstract or ambiguous, but I think that for this artwork, the artist chose to be very explicit, and I think it's to really depict what is our vision for these cities of the future. And I think she went for this particular style of storytelling, going like from the beginning till the end, walking us through this, where we are and where will we in the future with cities.
It really felt like she took us on a story and on a journey, didn't it? How does the art piece represent the challenges that the modern city is facing?
I think that there are some clear examples. So if you look at the beginning when it's making the connection between neurons and cities being these points of coexistence between citizens, creating knowledge, and then there's this part where you start seeing these roads coming through that are like ever growing, ever expanding. I think she's making reference to these ever expanding use of resources that we're doing. And then there's this clear shot where you have the HVAC systems on top of the buildings that is like pointing out to the climate emergency that we're seeing, like with this heating of the atmosphere, with all these things that we need to change as a society if we want to have a sustainable future.
It feels to me like it was one of those pieces where the more you look, the more you see. There is so much to it. How does it represent the future challenges that the city of tomorrow might possibly face? You touched on a couple of them there with climate, I think.
Absolutely. I think that she definitely touches upon the point of the scalability of resources and this shift in the way we are doing things, in the way we are producing, in the way we are organizing our built environment. So she touches upon the topic of circularity. When you see all these flowers, this nature blooming, how that can have an impact in the way we're living cities. That's for sure one of the elements. And by the end of it, I like to see the eye that is looking at us in the end as the eye of future generations that are looking at us and the decisions that we make today.
I hadn't thought of it like that. That's really clever. And did you have the opportunity to meet with the artist before the show?
Actually, I did. I had the chance to talk with her.
We also actually had the chance to meet with her before the show, and we discussed Yin Kang's collaboration with Da쏘시스템, and she helped us to better understand her creative process in bringing all of that to life, because it's such a huge project. Should we take a look at what she had to say?
My name is Ian Kang. I'm an artist and an associate lecturer at the Royal College of Arts. I make immersive audiovisual installation work that fundamentally challenges the dualistic ontologies. The notion of the future city invoked lots of thoughts in me. It made me to think about my life in the city, in the past, present, and future. And after the visit to Da쏘시스tem's headquarters in Belize, I could build more concrete ideas for my work. Particularly, it was very inspirational to see how they learn from nature and incorporate the systems of nature into the urban design. The visits gave me rich information about what they've been pursuing, and after that, I could start my own research. All the inspirations and knowledge shaped the underpinning concepts of my mapping work. Having a DDP as a canvas is definitely a positive challenge, which provides a perfect contextual background for this project. Not only its extraordinary shape and gigantic scale, but also the site, located at the center of Seoul, is very exceptional. We did a lot of simulations to understand the distortions of the building so that the moving images can exactly map into the surfaces. As an artist, I have to think about the concepts and the theoretical backgrounds and the research, but at the same time, I have to think a lot about how to execute it. I have to use a lot of different kinds of software to make my moving images, and then again, a lot of different software for mapping. It's a massive scale global project. To make it happen, many people from Da쏘시스tem's DDP and several teams from France, Korea, Taipei, and London had to collaborate. This project is the outcome of a long-term collective dedication of everyone who involved. For me, the only progress is human highlights that humanity holds the key to the genuine progress for the next generation. The future city needs to be a creative and innovative hub that challenges or disrupts the existing perspective. The main players of the city of tomorrow should be its citizens. I think the most important thing is building a collective mindset that is eco-friendly, sustainable, yet progress, and to understand the causal relationship between human and non-human entities. Technological advances led by the brilliant minds, such as Da쏘sistems, have a very substantial role in building our future city. It could be a catalyst and enabler to make our future city a sustainable one. It's an exceptional privilege that my artwork can be a bridge to connect these various people and to share the vision towards the future together. The learning from this collaborative process is the biggest benefit that I could take from this project. Together we can make it happen. Then perhaps I could say that together we can build a great city of tomorrow.
Welcome back to Urban Renaissance, everyone. Now, if you're just joining us, I'm here with our first guest, Pedro Diez-Cosero, and we're discussing the city of tomorrow. Pedro, after watching the interview, I wonder if you could just tell us, how do you reckon the artist's vision aligns with Da쏘sistem's vision of the city of tomorrow? Can you talk to me a bit about that?
I think it aligns very much. Starting with the fact that we both understand that there's a challenge that we need to address. We need to see a change in society, in the way we address cities, and that we both see technology as this enabler to address that challenge. And more specifically, we can leverage virtual twins to benefit of simulation to understand if scenarios and conceive that better future city of tomorrow.
You mentioned virtual twins. For anyone who's watching or anyone in the audience who doesn't know what that is, can you explain a little bit about the concept?
Right. So to me, virtual twins are the representation of real-life assets. By building this virtual representation of a city, we can aggregate data, understand how it applies to the different districts of the city, how it applies to the different demographics, the different parts of the population, and it allows us to run this simulation to understand what could possibly happen if we add a bridge here, if we improve the mobility in this other area. And I think that is really the power of virtual twins.
And I imagine that it would also help in terms of speed and efficiency for making those changes and for bringing things to life too.
Definitely.
Thank you to you, Pedro, for a really eye-opening discussion and for sharing all of your expertise with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
For our viewers, please don't go anywhere, because up next, we're welcoming the associate architect from the architecture firm that conceptualised and constructed the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. All that and more in a few moments. Welcome back to the latest instalment in Da쏘sistem's The Only Progress is Human campaign, Urban Renaissance. I'm here with our second guest, Bogdan Zahar. Welcome, Bogdan. It's lovely to have you here with us. So before we start, I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about you and about your work.
Hi, Amy. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm an architect. I'm an associate with Zaha Architects. We're based in London. Our work is basically to infuse all projects with a design ethos, which we then make sure that kind of transpires throughout the project or throughout the different stages of the project up until completion.
And earlier on, we saw the light show, which I know you've had a chance to look at as well, where it was projected onto the facade of the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Now, this is actually a building that was constructed and conceptualised in the heart of Seoul by Zaha Hadid Architects. So why do you think the structure of this building was particularly special and particularly relevant here?
Well, I think that its spatial features helped with that. Accentuating the projections themselves, and also because it has this almost like a huge canvas which is visible for a great audience just because of its vast volume and surface, right? So I think in that sense, it was a challenge, obviously, to
We like a
map
challenge.
such a great, vast amount of space, technically, but also to conceive of something which is relevant throughout its entirety, I guess. The building's curvilinearity and spatial features help with accentuating the perception from a human eye level.
In fact, it actually added and built on that story and that journey that we were taken on. What do you think the DDP says about the city of tomorrow? Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah, so I think that as most of our buildings or all of our buildings' ambitions are, that to create something special. And I think that the DDP in particular has managed to do so. It was conceived in such a way to be integrated within Korean traditional design values. And I think that this is creating a unique journey for the visitor in how they experience the building, how they navigate it, and how they're able to have multiple experiences through this multiplicity of vistas and connections below and above and throughout, through all these cutouts within the building, to the sky, to the ground, with fly bridges and all these exciting places where you can go and explore.
And different spaces. And it was amazing to see that work then take on that whole form on the DDP as well. Now, before we go on, what we're actually going to do is welcome our third guest of the day. And then together, we're going to get you to play an interactive game so that we can better understand how we're going to experience cities in the future. Is that okay with you?
Right.
OK, next up, we have got Vice President of Cities and Public Services at Da쏘시스템. Jacques Beltran is joining us. Please don't go anywhere. We are back with Urban Renaissance. I'm sitting here with Jacques Beltran from Da쏘시스템 and Bogdan Sahar from Zaha Hadid Architects. Welcome, Jacques. Welcome back as well, Bogdan as well. So for this segment on the city of tomorrow, I won't be leading the conversation. In fact, the game that we're going to play is going to do that for us instead. So placed on the table here, we've got some visual cards that represent different components of a city. And then based on the questions I ask you, you'll discuss the topic. You can select one or two of these cards, show them to our viewers, and then use those to explain how the different components are transforming in the future. Does that sound good?
Sure.
OK, let's give it a go. So it's time to play City Blocks. OK, so let's start with you, Jacques. So why is it important to transform cities?
So that's when I pick one.
Yes, let's go for it.
I'll go for this one. This is basically all the people that live in cities. Today, I think we have more or less 54% of the world population living in cities. By 2050, it'll be 68% of the world population.
Huge amounts.
That just gives you an idea why we need to transform cities and quickly.
That's a fantastic answer and nice and speedy, thank you. What's one city aspect that will change the most in the near future? I'll ask that to you as well, actually, Jack.
I would pick this one here, the sun. But beyond that picture, it's, I would say, the impact of climate change on cities. Because you have an increasing population in cities, and because climate is changing, cities are less and less livable. And it's no choice, no brainer that cities have to transform to adapt to climate change. Of course, you can try and fight the consequences of climate change, but you have to adapt your cities. And for that, we've got plenty of solutions in the cities, the people, the individuals, the governments, the companies, technology. There's plenty of things to do.
Climate, OK, lovely. Let's pop that one back on there. Bogdan, let's have a question for you. So what's one solution you think will help the most reduce our carbon footprint? So just one card, any that springs to mind?
All of them. But,
You don't know.
yeah, I think there's a bit to do in everything, but basically is getting a bit more of this into it, I guess.
Ah, OK,
Which,
tell me about that.
I think it's more about integrating nature within our cities in a sense of embedding it within the buildings, but also giving more importance of how we connect with the public space around us. So I think that's the most important, which also the pandemic has taught us, that we should pay a bit more attention to that, I guess.
On that note then, how did COVID-19 impact cities? Are there any of these cards that talk to that?
Oh, well, unfortunately, this one is pretty obvious, right?
Yep.
But there have been many impacts of COVID on cities. But what we experienced at Da쏘si스템 is that many governments were just puzzled with how to manage this pandemic, even from a simple understanding of what was going on. The data, the health data of the population, the speed at which the virus was spreading on a given territory, city, whatever, was something that they had difficulties in grasping. And for that, there is a lot of technology that can help governments, public officials, leaders understand what's happening by collecting all the data that is scattered in very different places into one single dashboard, one single understanding of a territory. Once you have that, you can start making decisions. For example, in one given city, we work with officials to develop a predictive algorithm to anticipate how many people would be going into hospitals, into intensive care units 3 months ahead.
That far ahead of time?
Yeah.
And that's the power of technology and being able to utilise it in that way?
Yeah, it's the power of technology and it's the power of data. I mean, we have data everywhere.
Yeah.
All these individuals, I'll grab another one. All these individuals produce data. And if you know how to gather that data, of course, protecting all the confidentiality, the personal rights of the people, but if you gather anonymized data, there's a lot you can do to make sure your public policies, in this case health policies, are much more accurate.
Bogdan, how would you say we're guaranteeing a better quality of life in the future?
Well, I think that one thing, I'm going to go back and picking this one up, which is about individuals. But then how you use that data for individuals is about how you can create a better understanding among individuals to be able to create collaboration. And for
working
that,
together.
I think you need, this one, which is about communication. So similarly, as an architect or as architects, we try to, let's say, drive our design based on similar kind of data inputs in a sense of judging how people would be able to use space by how they use it and try to create tendencies of usage.
Brilliant. Jacques, what's one aspect that will impact our way of living?
I'll grab this one. I think mobility in cities is probably one of the biggest issues for city managers today. All cities, and specifically the big ones, are all facing congestion, traffic congestion issues. And with the traffic congestion, you have the pollution, you have the noise. And to tackle these issues, this is where we tend to suggest that we use what we call virtual twin technology. A virtual twin is an exact scientific replica of a city, but it's virtual. And because it is virtual, you can actually play with that model. So you can either make the decision and then see what happens, or you can use virtual twin technology to simulate traffic, noise, and pollution and take a public policy decision based on science.
And test it.
And test it.
Yeah.
And you can play different scenarios and change again the variables until you find exactly the right solution that is going to work in the real world. So it's actually collecting data from the real world, taking it to the virtual twin, playing the scenarios, and then once you've got the solution, you go back to the real world and you improve the real world thanks to that.
And implement the answer.
Exactly.
It's been so insightful. Thank you for playing it in that game format as well. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Made it very digestible. And I'm excited to see how things will evolve for cities to come. So thank you both very much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the Urban Renaissance show is not over yet. For our final segment, we're greeting our last guest of the day, Vice President of Corporate Equity Marketing and Communications at Da쏘시스템. Victoire de Margerie is shedding light on the story behind the Only Progress is Human campaign and this instalment's collaboration for the light show. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. And for those of you joining us just now, we're here on the latest instalment of Da쏘shistème's The Only Progress is Human campaign. And now I'm joined by Victoire de Margerie. Hi, Victoire. Thank you so much for coming and for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So first up, we're going to jump in and we've got a bit of a challenge. We're going to do a little game, if that's OK with you.
Okay.
And I heard you've got some exclusive stories for us. So stories about the Only Progress is Human campaign in general, but also some of the previous acts that you did as well. So we want to hear all about all of that. And what you're going to do is if you look at the camera, we'll show you sets of photos or videos and they're each illustrating specific topics. And then I'll ask you questions and you answer as quickly as you can. Does that sound good?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
OK. Let's play React. So firstly, tell us, what was the reason behind the Only Progress is Human campaign?
The campaign The Only Progress is Human relies on a core belief that innovation only makes sense when it's made by people and for people. Society is facing challenges of critical importance, the preservation of the environment, health, the management of urban spaces, and the list goes on. Tackling those challenges will require bold solutions, and we fundamentally believe that virtualization is key to making this happen. That's why we've launched a series of 10 acts around the most pressing challenges humanity is facing to demonstrate how the virtual worlds extend and improve the real world.
You're doing great. Now, what's the story behind this picture?
Well, this picture is very special for me because it's been taken during Virtual Harmony, our very first act. Virtual Harmony was unique in the sense that we combine visual arts, 3D, and music to develop an emotional experience like no other. Looking back, what's funny is that it happened on February 26, 2020, only a week before all public shows were cancelled due to the COVID-19. So I guess we can say we were very, very lucky. Some people thought we were crazy to hold this event outside in February, but look how it turned out.
Wow, talk about timing. Now, how about this next one?
This was Water and Consumption, the second chapter of our campaign. We announced our commitment to supporting businesses across the world by helping them measure and optimize their water footprints thanks to the virtual twins of their operations.
Well, that must have been intense. Now, on to the next one. How about this one here?
This was last year's act, Living Heritage. It focused on students from around the world who constructed in a 3D some of the world's most iconic heritage sites. We invited them to our campus in July 2022 to present their amazing project. We're truly an international company, and for us, being able to have an intercultural project of that scale involving students was everything.
Now we're looking at the city of Seoul. Victoire, what's the story behind the choice of Seoul for urban renaissance?
Well, first, urbanization is key in Asia, as you know. It's the most populous continent in the world. We knew we wanted to expand outside of Europe with this act. So since Seoul has evolved and has become one of the most modern and innovative cities today, we believe it was the obvious choice, Seoul.
Victoire, dare I ask, what will the next act be about?
No spoilers, but I can tell you one thing. It's important for us at Da쏘shistem to get involved in the healthcare industry, and we've been investing a lot in that field. It has also a special resonance after the global pandemic of the past few years. So for our next act, we are tackling health, and that's all what I can say.
That's more than enough for us. Victoire, thank you so much for playing and also for sharing all of your insights. It's been really, really lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our our show, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank our guests for sharing their expertise with us, our amazing crew for making the show possible, and you, our viewers, for being so reactive. We've loved sharing Urban Renaissance with you, and we can't wait to see you for the upcoming campaign. Stay tuned and catch you soon. Thank you.
The only progress is human. Da쏘시스템.